All right, my friends, are you ready for a drop in your standard of living by about 20-25% or so? Actually, I'm absolutely convinced this is happening now. And whether or not it's a good thing or not a good thing, frankly, it doesn't matter. It's happening. And you can see what's going on just right now in Germany. Remember, it's summertime over there in Germany, and yet they're already putting rations on their use of natural gas. The prices of stuff are going up, which means you have less stuff to consume for other things. Obviously, at some point, the price of air travel will be going up, which means you will have less time to fly, to consume air travel, and to go see your grandma in California and whatnot. You can see this a mile away. And that's why I still think in some regard Putin's in on this, to be perfectly honest. I mean, he was a world global leader. But they've been wanting, they could not get us in fear to reduce our consumption by scaring us about climate change. They couldn't do it. I mean, people are all screaming bloody murder about climate change as they're getting on a plane and taking their trip to wherever the hell rich people go. So, now obviously the elite, Larry Fink, like I said with BlackRock, they exempted corporate jets from the CO2 emissions when it came to EU stuff under whatever one of those COP26, Agenda 20, I don't even know what the hell they were. It's funny how CO2 was exempted for corporate jet travel. So they're not going to reduce their consumption, but Frank, who cares what Larry Fink does? I just, that's the thing. The more you see what's happening, you're going to get one of two things. You're going to get more and more pissed off at those with the haves and say it's not fair that Larry Fink, and that will lead you to bad behavior, i.e. your own internal thoughts. You're going to get mad, and you're going to get scared, and you're going to get angry, and that doesn't lead you to the right direction. What you got to do is recognize the days of, I'm not going to say conspicuous consumption, but those, we're going back to the 70s, man. And that doesn't mean, I want to be clear. Going back to the 70s doesn't mean black and white TV and Pintos. It just means you're going to live without things you're accustomed to. Travel, air travel in particular, jumps out at me. You're going to have less air conditioning. You won't be able to keep your house as cool as what you previously were able to do. It's just going to cost too much, man. You're not going to be able to wash your clothes and dry them at 2 in the afternoon. You just can't do it. Or what's the most peak time for electricity? Like 5 p.m.? You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to drive in your RVs and just take a trip wherever you want without saying, if I do that, I will not be able to do this. And that's where I don't want people to get panicked here. I just say that is what substitution effect in economics or just reducing consumption means. If I go to the left, I inherently can't go to the right. Thus, if I take a trip to see Grampy in California, I can't turn around and take a trip to go scope out South Rapid City, South Dakota to see if I want to retire there, because I can't afford both, all right? If I take a vacation down to Destin, Florida, and I live in Philadelphia, I have to choose whether I can fly or drive. Well, the price of flying is quite high. The price to drive is also quite high. Maybe I'll just go to Poconos instead. You see what I'm saying? That's a reduction in consumption. I don't know. If I like to eat ribeye and the price of ribeye goes through the roof because the lack of fertilizer, all this, I'll have to eat liver instead. I mean, just whatever. I'm not even sure it's going to be that bad. But you can see a mile away. If I normally use my pool, and I heat my pool in October, heating with natural gas to warm the water, I can't do that because it costs too much. Well, that only affects wealthy people. Yeah, it's consumption reduction, though. Even if you're not wealthy without a pool, you're still going to have your own thing to consume less of. You can see it a mile away. And you better be prepared. And it's just this is exactly what the climate change people have wanted. For decades, they want less people, and they got their way with abortion, you know, the 57 flavors, the LG, you know, all that crap. Never mind the Germans. They got their way. You're making men and women at odds, the MGTOW, you know, just creating an anti-relationship friendly environment. You know, pre-marriage sex at all costs, all that stuff, man. Because all that does is hurt relationships in the long run and creates hostility. A lot of it, which I blame the men, because they couldn't keep in their pants and they left a girl high and dry who they were able to convince to get jiggy with, and as such, the girl's left with a baby, or she's left to choose abortion and or adoption. One of the three things. Adoption is always the answer, of course, but she's left. There's always an answer. It's the abortion's not, but one of the three things. And of course, she's left kind of pissed off. She goes, I can't believe I let that sucker convince me. And now I'm sitting here. And then the guy goes on to bigger and better. Yeah, I do blame the man, frankly. 100%. As a guy who played a role in that, in terms of trying to get chicks to, it's freaking embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Freaking. And you do that with, you know what I'm saying? Now, with that said, are women innocent free? Of course not. Of course not. I'm just saying, from a man's perspective, you keep in your pants and no abortion happens. It's just that simple. You hold that thing in there for someone who you love. Why waste your DNA on somebody that's not deserving of you? And how do you know they're not deserving of you? Well, would you marry that chick? If you wouldn't marry it, they're not deserving of you. But I really have a release I need. Yeah, there's other ways to do that, man. Don't even get me started. I'm the founder of Kellogg's cereal, by the way. I'm going to do a video on that here later on today after I pick my wife and daughters up from the airport. That guy's a scumbag. Battle Creek, Michigan. Mean anything to you? Woo, Nelly. The whole veganism movement. Oh, more to come on that. Freaking disgusting. Disgusting people. Something happened in the mid-1800s, outside of, I mean, probably the Civil War too, but something happened there that really, Satan was able to get his evil mitts into modern society. And it just happened to coincide with the Civil War, with Darwin, Huxley, just tons of scoundrels. Tons of scoundrels. You just think, like, what was the Catholic Church doing that time? I don't know. This right here is a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm sure the Catholic Church is up to no good. I don't know what was going on there. Actually, maybe not. Maybe the Catholic Church was a beacon at that point, because this is why the Protestants got together with the atheists to try to convince the world that the Catholicism, they still thought the world was flat. That's why Columbus thought he was going to fall over. And that's not true. Regardless of whether or not you think it doesn't matter. Whatever you think about the world, it doesn't matter. What matters is the Protestants engage with the atheists to try to make the Catholics look like idiots. And this isn't even Cromwell stuff here, but it's second, you know, 1 degree less. And Catholics, of course, the Irish, the Italians, the Spanish, the brown-skinned people, and the drunken Irish were held account for fake stuff that the Protestants and atheists brought. Again, for those who get all upset, well, the King James. I'm not freaking bashing Protestants, man, not in the least. And trust me, I don't hold Catholics in the Catholic Church of the Vatican, for heaven's sake, as the epitome of moral righteousness, not in the least. I'm just saying history is ugly, man. Lots of wonderful Catholics, atheists, Protestants, Muslims, lots of wonderful people in history, without question. We're just talking about some of the evil people and things that happened to get us where we are today. And where we are today is, again, going back, consumption's too high. We got to reduce consumption in the West. They haven't listened to us, our warnings year over year over year about the dire straits of global warming, from Paul Ulrich, population bomb, to James Hansen with his fake 1988 Senate committee testimony with him and Tim Wirth, They opened the windows the night before, got rid of the air conditioning unit, so everyone's sweating like pigs, to very good optics. Of course, Tim Worth later on, after admitting this, was challenged on it. He said, no, that never happened. It's a lie. It's just all crazy. That's why I got to own books, because electronic databases will be changed accordingly to fit the narrative. It's 1984, dude. You know what I'm saying? The people who control the past are the people who control the present. The people control the people, whatever it is. The people who control the past control the future, whatever the hell it is. I don't know. Anyway, the point being is, and so now we're here. Al Gore couldn't scare us in the 90s and 2000s. Michael Mann couldn't scare us enough in the Climategate stuff. They couldn't scare us enough about EMPs, nuclear war. That's a different thing, but that's where we spend all this money on military stuff. So they basically want you scared on climate change while they're spending all this stuff on military so they can get rich while they're scaring you to death. It freaking worked like a charm, but it didn't work enough in terms of, all right, we can't just we're not going to have like huge, massive wars again. The American people probably won't put up for that. So we can't just keep going to the well of military spending. But how do we separate Americans from their freedom and money? Well, it's simple, man. Simple. We engage Putin, invade Ukraine. We say, hey, let's make the price of everything sky high so people can't afford to do what we need to do. We're going to have massive military-industrial complex, not military anymore, but green, solar, wind, all that crap. And it will make bank. People will have less. They'll be more fearful of nuclear wars, more fearful of climate change. They'll have less children. Going back to the fake Georgia Guidestones thing, which I absolutely think was a psyop. The more I think about it, the more I recognize what it was. And as such, we don't like people. I mean, it's a psyop, but I think at the end of the day, these people, we don't like human beings. We have less. I think they actually like this Georgia Guidestones, but I think it came down deliberately to make everyone say, just whatever. I've done video on that before. I'm not going to do it again. And as such, we're like, hey, we can get people scared of war, nuclear war. We'll get people scared of climate change. People won't have kids because I don't want to bring children just to get nuked by Putin. I don't want to bring children to get, the sun is going to blow us all up with heat. I don't want to bring children in that. That's great. And at the same time, we're still going to make bank. These are the powers that be. Our people we have on the yo-yo Obamas and Mitt Romney's. Mitt Romney has this huge house in San Diego, which has an elevator for his cars. Obama has a huge house in Martha's Vineyard. He's so worried about the sea levels rise. Oh my goodness. And you and I are going to be having less consumption. I'm not sure it's the worst thing ever happened, actually. As long as you got food and you got shelter, I'm not sure not taking as many trips is the worst thing ever. I'm not sure not going around the RVs that you thought you were going to do, RVing around the country is the worst thing ever. I'm not sure that, being a little bit less comfortable in your home without as much air conditioning as you're accustomed to, heat. I don't even think it's going to be air conditioning and heat so much. I just think it's going to be things like starting your pool. You know what I'm saying? You're probably going to have to just reduce your ability to dry your clothes. Anything that's a big load. Your washing machine, hot water, shorter showers, things of that nature. Again, your oven, you probably have to say, maybe I'll put this on the stove outside. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of things that could not be as bad. Maybe we won't spend so much on chemical fertilizer to make our garden or our yard look so green. You know what I'm saying? Maybe look at dandelions like they truly are, which is a wonderful, wonderful piece of nature, not a weed. I'm just not so sure it's going to be the worst thing that ever happened. Now, again, you're going to be pissed, as I am, about Larry Fink and all these clowns, Michael Bloomberg. You're going to say, why is it fair for them? And it's always been fair for these guys. These guys have always lived large. Well, most of us live not large. There's no two ways around that, man. It's going to continue to happen. So again, instead of getting mad at it, recognize for what it is. Say, okay, I'm ready. It's happening. Nothing I can do about it anyway. You being mad isn't going to change anything. What are you going to do? Go to protest on January 6th? That didn't change anything other than put innocent people in jail. Some died. I mean, don't do that, man. It's beyond your ability to control. And it's not worth you wasting your time getting upset about. Because it's happening regardless. You see what I'm saying? And once you kind of see it, at least for me, I'm like, let's just put it this way. I'd rather have the Republicans win. Republicans lose. Am I going to freaking lose sleep at night? No. All right. I'd rather have the U.S. a dominant country in the world. Because I like the United States. I like America. I like Americans. If Russia, China, Brazil get together and compete with us, is that the worst thing that ever happened in the world? No. Is there anything I can do about it anyway? No. So I'm not going to focus on it, because I literally think the devil's work. Create chaos in your brain. False sense of you have the ability to change what you can't. So you keep focusing on that. Instead, just adjust. Like you say in the Army, adapt and overcome, man. That's what you're going to have to do. And recognize, hey, enjoy what you got. We got a lot going for us. Don't overlook that. Love your thoughts.